Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. I got the idea for this video, so it's kind of a VR, a video response to a guy you should check out, Asymmetrical Preparedness. I'm trying to fix the camera. There we go. Asymmetrical Preparedness. He's a thinker, he's a prepper, he's younger than me, but who isn't? And he talked about, in his most recent video, something that's become popular on YouTube and in writing and on forums and whatnot. Civil War II. So in this video, I think we're going to talk about Civil War II as it applies or will to you. The first Civil War, as far as Americans are concerned, the War of Northern Aggression. Most people are vaguely familiar with that. North versus South, that kind of thing. Industrial versus agriculture, that kind of thing. Some people mistakenly believe, because they were raised in a bad school system, that it was the war to free the slaves. It was not. Civil War I. Civil War II was first popularized, I think, by a guy named Thomas Chittum, and he wrote a book called Civil War II, and his thesis was that we will eventually fight another civil war, and this time it will be fought between what then was thought of as normal Americans, dare I say black and white. I'm not trying to get controversial, I'm just trying to sum up the book, against Hispanic, Latino, everybody south of the Rio Grande who are moving up, and it's a clash of cultures. And then he laid out in his book Civil War II things to look for to show you that it's imminent. Decent book, definitely original thought on his part. Lately we hear things about, the left versus the right, characterized in some degree by, on the one hand, the Antifa, anti-fascists, read communists. On the other hand, the Proud Boys, the 3%ers who haven't really done anything with Antifa, but they're kind of in people's mind over there. Very conservative people. A lot of people make the mistake of, especially when it comes to politicians, falling into the left-right paradigm. The far left, represented by Pelosi, Schumer, and et al. The far right, by who anymore? Because, see, my brain is so far out of it, it's hard for me to go there. But I guess, Mitch McConnell or something. That represents right. And there's this supposed clash between them. And I submit to you that there's not. They're all on the same side. And I don't want to turn this into that political video. Maybe I'll address that later. But if they both want more government control over your life, I submit that the scale should be totalitarianism at one end and anarchy at the other. That should be the scale, and all of a sudden the left-right goes away. And we want to be free, right? Our Constitution is a great document, and a lot of people say we need to restore our constitutional republic and get it back to the way the founders wanted. And if you've been following me on Patreon at all, you know that I say repeatedly that ain't never gonna happen. That's me. It's just not gonna happen. For those of you who are already starting to comment and hit thumbs down and whatever, go read, look up, Google John Glubb, Fate of Empires. You can get the PDF and, online. It's, 25, 29 pages. Read it. We're done. We're done. We're not going back to the way it was. We're constant forward motion. And where that forward motion goes, does it go to the Pelosi, whatever that woman who came to the country illegally from where, Somalia or something, is now a Congress critter? If it goes where AOC, if it goes where they want it to go, that's one thing. If it goes where the so-called Republican people want it to go, that's one thing. But it's not going back. It's not going back. And again, this isn't really that video either. This video is on Civil War II and you. First of all, is there a Civil War coming? I think so. But I don't think it's going to play out like everybody thinks it is. People out there, and clearly I am more aligned with the right. I don't go to a lot of ultra left-wing sites and read their drivel. It makes me nauseous. But people on the right, you know, when they talk about it at all, it's like, yeah, it's time to get it on. Did you ever see that movie, The Patriot? He talks about people are all gung-ho for the war, and he's like, hey, you don't want a war. This war will be fought amongst our homes, right? And you don't want that, number one. And so to the extent that we can affect change from the ballot box, from our elected representatives, from social media, which, you know, we're being shut out of, right? That's why I'm on Patreon. We do that. Fighting is a last resort. But then it comes to this. Who are you going to fight? Who are you going to fight? I think people on both sides assume that the levers of power, military and police power, the 82nd Airborne and the, you know, state police of whatever state you're in, are automatically going to be on the side of the opposition, whatever side you're on, left or right. That's not true. When there's a civil war, it fractures the whole country, and whole slices and chunks of people and units go both sides. But again, I say to you, who are you going to fight? If you are a conservative ultra, and you're like, you know, you're a 3%er militia, you got all your cool gear, and now multicam, right? It's got to be a multicam. Who are you going to start fighting? Who's leading you? What do they really want? They want to restore a constitutional republic. Do they? How do you know? While you do their bidding. I think a couple things. I think number one, and I'm not happy about it at all, I think we're never going back to a constitutional republic as envisioned by the forefathers. That's one. I'm not happy about that. I think that America, the United States of, is going to lose its status as a world power. And it's like, oh, that'll never happen. We have the finest military in the world, the best technology, dun, 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 dun. For now, I just think we're not going to be a world power. I think we're going to be removed from that pedestal by a variety of means. Internal strife. And believe me, both sides of the internal strife will be supported, probably covertly, by our enemies. Oh yeah, they just want to see us fight each other efficiently. And so we're done, and somebody else is going to rise to power. And right now, the way I'm looking at it, again, you need to read Glubb. You really do. It's either going to be the Chinese, or it's going to be Islam. I know, you guys are like, no way, man. Yeah. And so what can you do? Because here's the thing, there's not going to be a war with front lines. There's not going to be a Civil War II with easily discernible targets. These are the bad guys, these are the good guys. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a a big, breakdown in services due to various means, in logistics, in control, governmental control of areas. And I think the country is going to Balkanize. Read about the Balkans. They're still not right after the former Republic of Yugoslavia was split up. I was there. Interesting times, not. I think that's what's going to happen here. And you're going to see chunks of places all go one way or another, which is either ultra-liberal communist or basically fascist, really totalitarian. You're not going to see any places that go full out, restore the constitutional republic. You're just not going to see that. The people who want power want power. And so that's where the lines are going to be drawn. If you are a conservative person living on the West Coast, you know, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, you're in trouble. You're outnumbered greatly, and there will be fights, and basically you will lose. If you are, well, that's it. Basically, it's going to be in the cities. That's where the fight's going to be, because that's where, by and large, the left, if you will please allow me that, where the left is concentrated and where they will try to express their will. Out here, I think some of my neighbors probably vote Democrat, but they're not liberals, not by any stretch of the imagination. And there's nobody out here protesting. Right as I was setting up my tripod over there was a lot of rifle fire. Somebody was practicing. I know who they are. They're not Shofarians. But we have established relationships with them. Oh yes. What are they doing? Exercising their right as an American. And guess what? They weren't even born in this country. They're conservatives. They believe in defending what's theirs, and they practice to do so. There ain't going to be no Antifa riot out here. It's just not going to happen. Which goes to my come out of her, my people. Come out of her, my people. You in Civil War II, you don't want to be in it. That's my whole point. And then I'm going to put this video on YouTube, and you'll have people say, you're a coward if people thought like that, blah. No, I'm a realist. I know what's coming. I can see it. I've been in other places like it. We're fracturing. You want to die in San Francisco to restore a constitutional republic? Knock yourself out there, Bubba. I'm going to be out here growing veggies, raising critters, hanging out with my Pizos. What's going to kick it off? Bunch of things. The 2020 election, Asymmetrical Preparedness talked about that. I think he was pretty much right on that. If Trump wins the 2020 election, I believe the left will, one, they'll be in despair for a little while. They'll be demoralized for about a month or so. But they're going to amp up their shenanigans. Go back and read our history of the 1960s and early 70s. The Weather Underground. They'll do stuff like that. There was another group called the Minutemen back then. Right side. That kind of stuff will happen, but that's going to be low grade, man. I think where the problem's potentially going to come is if they successfully kick Trump out of office, and maybe not even then, if they win the election. If the left wins the election in 2020, starting about 2021, they're going to start making massive changes rapidly. Because see, here's the thing. On the one hand, the Republicans and the Democrats are the same, two sides of the same coin. On the other hand, Democrats are never afraid to wield power when they have it. They use power. I respect them for that. They have the power, they wield it. What good is having power if you don't use it? The Republicans are a bunch of mamby-pambies. They don't do anything, right? I think if the left wins, starting in 2021, they're going to come on board, and it's going to be a steamroller, and there's going to be pushback to that. And that pushback will go all over, and it'll be terrible. People mistakenly talk about martial law all over America. Can't happen. I've talked about that before, and this video's running long. Just look at the Rodney King riots in one part of LA and look at the assets that were dedicated to that. Look at the Ferguson riots in one little section of St. Louis and look at the assets that were dedicated to that. Now picture that in 50 American cities. We don't have the assets. Not going to happen. So the solution to that for you is don't be in the cities, number one. Be out in the countryside. But that could happen. We could have an economic collapse. And when the economic collapse happens, the people in the cities who are used to getting all the goods and services, they going to go cray-cray. They're going to get mad. They're going to start burning stuff down. It's going to create problems. And then from that, different factions will form and boom, 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 boom. Again, chaos. Meanwhile, out here in the Ozarks, well, I hear they closed the Walmart down. Yeah. Hey, would you be interested in me giving you a couple dozen eggs for a gallon of milk? Well, we could probably do that, Pastor Joe. Oh, yeah. So think about that. Where do you live? If you live at the conflict zone, that's a bad place to live. There's another good book out there. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. It was called either The 9 or 10 Nations of North America. Man, it was written a long time ago, like maybe 70s, maybe 80s. And a guy talks about how we're a united country, but really we're very different. Like, you know, the Seattle area, which I think he called the Emerald Empire or something, the breadbasket, the East Coast, Florida, Texas, Southwest. We're all very different. Different cultures, different ways of approaching things. And he saw the Balkanization. It was before the Balkans when he wrote this, before the current iteration of Balkan problems. He wrote about that. Yeah, it's going to happen. So where do you want to be when all this goes down? And for those of you who are like, yeah, I want to be on the front line, man. All right, awesome. Let me know how that works for you. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. I don't need to mess with that mess unless the mess comes here. And really, there's a lot bigger fish to fry out there. That's another thing. In the cities, where do all the resources come from? Other places. If they don't come from the boonies, they transit the boonies to get there. The left starts, turning this into a left-right thing, assuming cities are left and rural is right. Pretty soon those cities aren't going to be getting any supplies. Think about it. Come out of those cities, man. That's what the best thing for you to do is get out of the cities, get out of the built-up areas, and start getting self-sufficient for this so-called civil war. It's not go buy yourself another AR and another body armor and another this and another that. I'm not saying not to do those things, but I'm telling you, your best chance of success in Civil War II is to stay away from it. All right. Hey, I do videos like this every day on Patreon. I look forward to having more of you come out here and give Asymmetrical Preparedness a check out. I don't know him. Personally, I've never met him. I don't even know where he lives. I saw a lot of pine trees in his last video. He might live in the Northwest, in the Redoubt. All right. I'll see you out there.